The space station called Confluence 7 floated in the darkness like a massive metal flower. Its arms stretched out in 12 directions, one for each member of the Galactic Coalition. For 3,000 years, these 12 alien species had controlled this part of space. They were powerful. They were confident. They believed they had seen everything the universe had to offer. Today, they were about to be proven wrong. War Master Crixtal stood in the observation chamber, his massive body casting long shadows across the floor. His species, the Vraxians, looked like they were carved from black stone. He was over 3 meters tall with 4 arms and eyes that glowed a dim red. Right now, those eyes were focused on a screen showing the approaching human vessel. Next to him, Fleet Commander Thane Kerr studied the same image. The Quiltharian was smaller, his insect-like body covered in a shimmering blue shell. His compound eyes could see things other species missed. But today, what puzzled him most was what he could not see. The human ship looked wrong. Every species in the Coalition built their ships to show their strength. Massive gun turrets jutted from hulls. Missile ports lined the sides. Energy cannons sat ready to fire. These weapons were visible, obvious, threatening. They sent a clear message to anyone who saw them. But the human ship, the HSS Quiet Dawn, had none of that. Its hull was smooth and white, curved like an egg. The scanners showed nothing. No gun ports, no missile tubes, no weapon emplacements of any kind. It looked completely defenseless. Crixtal made a sound like grinding rocks. It was laughter. He turned to the other commanders in the room. There were representatives from all 12 Coalition species present. They had gathered to witness humanity's arrival. "Look at it," Crixtal said, his voice deep and rough. "The humans send a toy to meet us. Do they think this is a pleasure cruise? Do they not understand where they are?" Several other commanders chuckled. A few looked concerned. Thane Kerr said nothing. He had studied human transmissions for months before this meeting. The humans were new to deep space, yes, but they were not stupid. Something about this felt deliberate. The Quiet Dawn docked smoothly with the station. Through the windows, the commanders could see the airlock cycle open. A group of humans emerged, walking with the slightly awkward gait of people adjusting to the station's artificial gravity. Captain Daewon Kim led the group. He was tall for a human, with gray starting to show in his dark hair. His uniform was simple and neat. Behind him walked Commander Hai-Jin Park, her sharp eyes taking in everything around them. Ambassador Jiwoo. Lee came next, older than the others, moving with careful dignity. They entered the council chamber, a vast room with seats arranged in a circle. Each seat was designed for a different species. Some were large enough for beings like Crixtal. Others were smaller, built for species that lived in different gravities or atmospheres. Ambassador Lee stepped forward. She bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. The translation devices everyone wore converted her words into 12 different languages simultaneously. "Honored members of the Galactic Coalition," she began, "we come seeking peaceful relations and mutual understanding. Humanity wishes to apply for membership in your alliance. We believe we can contribute to the prosperity and security of all species here." Crixtal leaned forward in his massive seat. "You wish to join the coalition? Then you must prove you can defend yourself. We are not a charity. Every member must be strong enough to protect their own territory and assist in our common defense." Ambassador Lee nodded. "We understand." "Do you?" Crixtal's eyes glowed brighter. "We scanned your ship. We found no weapons. Nothing. How can you defend yourselves with a ship that cannot fight?" Some of the other commanders murmured agreement. Captain Kim stepped up beside the ambassador. He looked directly at Crixtal without fear. "Perhaps," Kim said quietly, "you did not look in the right places." The chamber fell silent. Several commanders sat up straighter. Thane Kerr's antennae twitched with interest. Crixtal stood, his full height impressive even among these powerful beings. "Are you claiming your ship is armed? Our sensors are the best in the coalition." If there were weapons, we would have found them. Your sensors are excellent, Kim agreed. They work exactly as designed. But what if a weapon does not need to be visible to be effective? Riddles, Krickstall snorted. You speak in riddles to hide your weakness. Then test us, Kim said simply. You want proof we can defend ourselves? Give us a demonstration scenario. Let us show you what we can do. This was unexpected. Thane Kerr could see the surprise on the faces of the other commanders. Humans asking for a combat test? Either they were incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Krickstall's laugh rumbled through the chamber. You want a demonstration? Very well. In 3 days, your ship will face 6 of our corvettes in a controlled engagement. They will be instructed to disable your vessel, not destroy it. When your systems fail and you drift helpless in space, perhaps then you will understand the realities of galactic politics. Ambassador Lee looked at Captain Kim. He gave her a small nod. She turned back to the council. We accept, she said. The humans were shown to their temporary quarters on the station. As they walked through the corridors, Commander Park moved close to Captain Kim. 6 corvettes, she said quietly. Krickstall is not playing around. Those ships pack serious firepower. Good, Kim replied. If we only faced 1 or 2, they might think it was luck. 6 will make the point clear. Ambassador Lee stopped walking. She looked at both of them. Are you certain about this? If something goes wrong, we lose more than just a ship. We lose any chance at peaceful relations. Kim smiled slightly. Ambassador, humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We got very good at it. We learned what works and what does not. Trust me. The Quiet Dawn will be fine. Back in the observation chamber, Thane Kerr watched the humans leave. Krickstall was still laughing with some of the other commanders, already planning how to use humanity's defeat as an example to other species who might seek coalition membership. But Thane Kerr could not shake a feeling of unease. He had commanded fleets for 300 cycles. He had fought in dozens of battles. He knew when an opponent was overconfident and when they knew something he did not. The humans showed no fear. They accepted a 6-on-1 fight without hesitation. Either they were suicidal or they had a secret worth keeping. Thane Kerr decided he would watch this demonstration very carefully. Something told him the coalition was about to learn something new. And in his long experience, learning usually came at a price. 3 days suddenly seemed like a very short time. The 3 days passed quickly. Throughout Confluence 7, everyone talked about the coming demonstration. Most thought it would be over in minutes. A few wondered if the humans had some trick planned. No one knew what to expect. In the Coalition War Room, military analysts worked around the clock. They studied every bit of information they had about human ships. They analyzed the Quiet Dawn's design, looking for hidden weapon bays or disguised launchers. They found nothing. The ship's hull was seamless, its surface unbroken except for the engines and sensor arrays. One young Quiltharian analyst named Vexrin spent hours staring at the sensor data. Something bothered her, but she could not figure out what. The power readings from the human ship were unusual. The Quiet Dawn generated far more energy than it seemed to use. Where was all that power going? She brought her concerns to Fleet Commander Thane Kerr. He listened carefully, his compound eyes studying the numbers. Yes, the power distribution was odd, but without knowing human technology better, it was impossible to say what it meant. Perhaps humans were simply inefficient with their energy systems. On the morning of the demonstration, the council chamber was packed. Every commander wanted to watch. Even the species representatives who usually skipped military matters had come. Entertainment was rare on Confluence 7. Watching overconfident newcomers learn their place provided a welcome break from routine. Krickstall sat in his place of honor, already savoring the victory. He had personally selected the 6 corvette captains. All were veterans, skilled in coordinated tactics. They would make this quick and clean. The humans would not be harmed, but they would be thoroughly humbled. The demonstration zone was 2 light minutes from the station, an empty region of space with nothing to interfere with sensors. Hundreds of observation drones surrounded the area, their cameras broadcasting to screens throughout the coalition. This was not just a test, it was a show. The HSS Quiet Dawn moved into position first. From the station it looked small and alone. The white hull reflected the distant starlight, making it seem to glow. Captain Kim stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. Commander Park sat at the weapons console. Her fingers moved across the controls, making final adjustments. Lieutenant Subin Choi monitored the communication channels, listening to the chatter from the coalition forces. 6 corvettes entering the zone, Subin reported. They are spreading into attack formation. Kim nodded. Heejin status? All systems ready, Park replied. QCD arrays charged and calibrated. We can maintain the field for 8 minutes before we need to cycle down. 8 minutes should be more than enough, Kim said. He opened a channel to the station. Coalition Command, this is Captain Kim. The Quiet Dawn is ready to begin. Krickstall's voice came through. Begin when ready, Captain. Try not to make this too easy for us. Kim smiled but said nothing. He closed the channel and looked at his crew. Steady, everyone. Remember your training. Let them make the first move. The Vraxian corvettes were beautiful in their way. Each one bristled with weapons. Plasma cannons glowed with stored energy. Railguns tracked the Quiet Dawn with mechanical precision. The corvettes moved like sharks circling prey, fast and deadly. The commander of the corvette squadron gave the order. All 6 ships opened fire at once. Space lit up with weapons fire. Plasma bolts streaked toward the Quiet Dawn in brilliant streams of superheated gas. Railgun slugs followed, moving so fast they were invisible except as distortions in space. It was an overwhelming barrage, enough firepower to cripple a ship twice the Quiet Dawn's size. The weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. The Quiet Dawn was already gone, moving with acceleration that should have been impossible. One moment it was there. The next it was 50 kilometers away. Its position shifted before the weapons even arrived. In the council chamber, several commanders leaned forward. That was fast, very fast, faster than their own ships could move. The corvettes adjusted their aim and fired again, and again. Each time the Quiet Dawn was somewhere else. It moved like it could see the future, sliding through gaps in the weapons fire that should not have existed. The white ship danced through space, untouched and seemingly effortless, but still it did not return fire. No weapons emerged from the smooth hull. No energy beams lashed back at the attackers. The Quiet Dawn simply moved, avoiding everything thrown at it. One corvette captain grew frustrated. He broke formation and accelerated hard, attempting to close the distance. If he could get close enough, the human ship would have no room to dodge. He pushed his engines to maximum, racing toward the Quiet Dawn at a speed that rattled his crew's teeth. The human ship did not run. It simply waited. As the corvette closed to within 1 kilometer, something strange happened. The attacking ship's lights flickered. Its engines stuttered. Every screen on the bridge went dark. Emergency lights came on, casting everything in a red glow. The corvette's captain stared at his dead controls in disbelief. What happened? He shouted at his crew. Damage report! No damage, sir, his engineer replied, her voice shaking. The systems just stopped. Everything, engines, weapons, navigation. Even the main computer is not responding. The corvette drifted, tumbling slowly as it lost attitude control. Life support still worked, running on backup power. The crew was safe, but the ship was dead, floating helpless in space. In the council chamber, the silence was absolute. Every eye fixed on the screens. The Quiet Dawn had not fired a single shot. No beam had been detected. No missile launched. Yet somehow a coalition corvette had been completely disabled. Thane Kerr's antennae quivered. This was not possible. Ships did not simply stop working for no reason. The remaining 5 corvettes pressed their attack with renewed determination. They fired from multiple angles, creating a kill zone that no ship should be able to escape. The Quiet Dawn flowed through it like water, still untouched. Then, one by one, the attacking ships began to fail. It happened differently each time. Sometimes a corvette's systems died all at once, like a light being switched off. Other times, the failure was gradual. Weapons going first, then engines, then everything else. But the result was always the same. Within 4 minutes, all 6 coalition corvettes floated dead in space, their crews bewildered but unharmed. The Quiet Dawn sat in the middle of the demonstration zone, surrounded by disabled ships. Its hull still gleamed white and unblemished. Not a single weapon had extended from its surface. Captain Kim opened a channel to the station. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Coalition Command, the demonstration is complete. All 6 corvettes have been neutralized as requested. Their crews are safe and their ships are undamaged. We can restore their systems whenever you are ready to discuss terms." In the council chamber, no one spoke. Kriegstall stared at the screens, his glowing eyes wide with shock. Around the room, commanders from 12 species sat frozen, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Thane Kerr was the first to move. He stood slowly, his compound eyes fixed on the image of the quiet dawn. When he spoke, his voice was soft with something that might have been awe. "What have we just seen?" He asked no one in particular. No one had an answer, but everyone knew that something fundamental had just changed. The humans had proven they could fight. They had done it without violence, without destruction, without a single visible weapon, and that was far more terrifying than any gun could ever be. Captain Kim transmitted the reactivation codes. Across the demonstration zone, the 6 corvettes began to wake up. Lights flickered on. Engines hummed back to life. Navigation systems reset themselves. Within minutes, all 6 ships reported full functionality. Not a single system showed any damage. It was as if someone had simply turned them off and then back on again. This made it worse somehow. A weapon that destroyed could be understood. A weapon that killed left evidence. But a weapon that could reach inside a ship and make it stop without causing any harm. That was deeply unsettling. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Commanders shouted questions and theories at each other. Some accused the humans of cheating, though no one could explain how. Others demanded immediate scans of the quiet dawn, convinced they had missed something during their initial examination. Kriegstall sat silent, his earlier confidence completely gone. He had commanded fleets for 50 cycles. He had seen every type of weapon the Coalition species had developed. This was something new, something he did not understand. For a warrior, nothing was more disturbing than an enemy whose capabilities were unknown. Thane Kerr raised one clawed hand for silence. The room gradually quieted. When all eyes turned to him, he spoke carefully. "We need information, not speculation. I propose we request permission to scan the human vessel with our most sophisticated equipment. If there are weapons, we will find them." Everyone agreed. An hour later, Ambassador Lee received the formal request. She consulted briefly with Captain Kim and Commander Park, then agreed to the scan. Kim seemed amused by the whole thing. "Let them look," he told his crew. "They will not find what they expect, but maybe they will find what they need to see." 3 Coalition science vessels surrounded the quiet dawn. They carried sensor equipment so advanced it could detect individual atoms. The scanners worked for 6 hours, examining every centimeter of the human ship. Engineers Lieutenant Tae-hyun Song and Dr. Yoon Nam watched from inside, monitoring what the aliens were discovering. "They are very thorough," Tae-hyun commented, watching the scan patterns on his screen. "They have hit us with everything from X-rays to graviton detectors, and finding exactly what we want them to find," Yoonji replied with a slight smile. "Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. Just a very well-built ship with excellent computers and powerful engines." The results came back to the Coalition Council. Thane Kerr read the report 3 times, hoping he had missed something. He had not. The human ship was advanced, yes. Its materials were sophisticated, and its power generation was impressive. But there were no directed energy weapons, no particle accelerators, no graviton projectors. The ship had sensors, computers, and engines. That was all. One of the Vraxian scientists proposed a theory. Perhaps the humans had portable weapons that they installed and removed as needed. The ship could be scanned clean because the weapons were not permanently mounted. But this theory fell apart quickly. The demonstration had happened too fast. There had been no time to install anything, and the sensor records from during the engagement showed no energy weapons firing at all. Kriegstall finally broke his silence. "If there are no weapons on the ship, then how did they disable our corvettes? Weapons do not appear from nothing. Energy does not come from nowhere. There must be an explanation." Young Vexrin, the Quiltharian analyst, raised her hand hesitantly. She was junior, inexperienced, but Thane Kerr recognized her from her earlier power distribution observations. He nodded for her to speak. "Perhaps," she said nervously, "the weapon is not separate from the ship. Perhaps the entire ship is the weapon. Or, more accurately, perhaps the weapon does not exist in physical space the way we think of weapons." Several commanders made dismissive sounds, but Thane Kerr gestured for her to continue. Vexerin brought up data on the main screen. During the engagement, I detected unusual quantum fluctuations in the space around the human ship. Very specific patterns. They match the signatures we see when quantum computing systems perform complex calculations. What if the humans found a way to weaponize information itself? Weaponize information? Another commander scoffed. That makes no sense, does it not? Vexerin replied, gaining confidence. Think about what happened. Our ships lost all computer function. Every system that relies on electronic processing failed. But mechanical systems, life support running on basic power, those kept working. What if the humans can transmit signals that corrupt or disable computer systems, not by destroying them, but by interfering with how they process information? Thaneker's compound eyes focused intently on the data. It made a strange kind of sense. Modern starships were completely dependent on computers. Navigation, weapons, engines, everything relied on electronic systems. If someone could reach out and simply turn those systems off remotely, they would not need conventional weapons at all. But that should not be possible. A coalition engineer protested. Computer systems are shielded. Our encryption is unbreakable. You cannot just broadcast a signal and take over a ship. Unless, Vexerin said quietly, you understand the computers better than the people who built them. Unless you can exploit vulnerabilities at the fundamental quantum level, below where our shielding operates. The implications hung in the air like a storm cloud. If this theory was correct, the humans could potentially disable any coalition ship. Shields would not help. Armor would not matter. The attack would be invisible, unstoppable, and leave no damage behind. It was the perfect weapon. Crixtal stood abruptly. We need to speak with the humans now. If they have this capability, we must know the limits. Can they do this to an entire fleet? To our space stations? To our planetary defense networks? An emergency request was sent to Ambassador Lee. She responded within the hour, agreeing to meet with the full council. This time, the tone would be very different from their first meeting. Thaneker requested a private meeting first, just himself with Captain Kim and Commander Park. They met in a small conference room away from the main chamber. The Quiltharian commander studied the two humans carefully. I have commanded fleets for 300 cycles, he said without preamble. I have studied warfare in all its forms. I have never seen anything like what you did today. I am not asking you to reveal your secrets. I am asking a different question. Why? Kim leaned back in his chair. Why are our weapons invisible? Yes, you could have built obvious weapons. You could have mounted guns that we would see and understand. Why hide your capabilities? Kim was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. Commander, let me ask you something. What is the ultimate weapon? Thaneker responded immediately. One that your enemy cannot defend against? Close, Kim said. But I would say the ultimate weapon is one your enemy never sees coming, because they are looking in the wrong place. You build visible weapons so you think everyone does. You look for gun ports and missile tubes because that is what you know. But what if the weapon is somewhere you never thought to look? Commander Park added. In human history, the most successful military strategies were often the ones that broke expectations. Submarines that attacked from beneath the waves when everyone watched the sky. Cyber attacks that compromised systems without firing a shot. We learned that in warfare, being unpredictable is often more valuable than being powerful. Thaneker absorbed this. It was elegant in its simplicity. The humans had turned the basic assumptions of space warfare against the coalition. Every species built ships to counter visible threats. No one had prepared for an invisible one. Will you explain to the full council? He asked. They need to understand what they saw today. Kim nodded. We will tell them. Not everything, but enough. We came here seeking peaceful relations, Commander. We never wanted to fight, but we needed to prove we could, or we would never be taken seriously. Thaneker made a sound that was close to laughter. You have certainly been taken seriously now. Perhaps too seriously. Half the council thinks you are a threat to be eliminated. The other half wants to recruit you immediately. And you? Kim asked. What do you think? The Quiltharian was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I think the coalition has grown comfortable. We have been the strongest power in this region for so long that we forgot what it means to be challenged. You have reminded us. For that alone, I believe you are valuable. Whether as allies or teachers, I have not yet decided. But I do not see you as enemies. It was the beginning of understanding. Not complete, not yet, but a start. And sometimes, Kim reflected, a start was all you needed. The council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from all 12 coalition species filled every seat. Additional observers stood along the walls. Everyone wanted to hear the humans explain their mysterious weapons. The atmosphere was tense but no longer hostile. Fear and curiosity had replaced arrogance. Ambassador Lee entered with Captain Kim and Commander Park. They walked to the center of the chamber, where a holographic display waited. Lee looked around at the assembled aliens, meeting their eyes without fear. "Thank you for this opportunity," she began. "Before we explain our technology, I want to ask you something. How many of you can see ultraviolet light?" About half the species raised their appendages or signaled yes. Some species evolved on worlds with different star types, giving them vision in different spectrums. "How many can see infrared light?" Lee continued. Fewer hands went up this time. "How many of you can directly detect quantum entanglement?" No one moved. Even the most advanced species could only measure quantum effects with instruments, not perceive them directly. Lee nodded. Every species builds weapons based on what they can perceive. You build guns because you can see bullets hit their targets. You build energy weapons because you can detect their beams with your sensors. You armor your ships against the threats you understand. But what if there is an entire category of warfare that exists below your perception threshold? She gestured to Commander Park, who activated the holographic display. Complex diagrams appeared, showing quantum states and wave functions. Park began her explanation. "Our ships are equipped with devices we call quantum coherence disruptors, or QCDs. These devices do not fire projectiles. They do not emit energy beams. Instead, they transmit precisely tuned quantum interference patterns that disrupt the coherent states necessary for electronic systems to function." She changed the display, showing a simplified diagram. "Every computer chip, every sensor array, every power relay in your ships operates on quantum mechanical principles. They require something called quantum coherence to work properly. Think of it like a perfectly tuned musical instrument. Our QCDs introduce interference that is like playing the wrong notes. The instrument cannot perform. But when we stop the interference, everything goes back to normal." A coalition engineer stood up, clearly skeptical. "That is impossible. Quantum decoherence happens naturally all the time. You cannot control it precisely enough to use it as a weapon over distances." Park smiled. "You are correct. You cannot. But humans developed quantum computing 300 years ago. We have been manipulating coherent quantum states longer than most of your species have been traveling in space. This is not new science to us. We simply applied knowledge we already had in a new way." Krikstal spoke for the first time since the demonstration. His voice was quieter than before, thoughtful. "So you do not destroy our systems. You temporarily disrupt them. That is why there was no damage to the corvettes." "Exactly," Park confirmed. "We introduce controlled decoherence. When we stop, the quantum states naturally return to coherence and your systems resume normal operation. It is the difference between breaking something and turning it off." Captain Kim stepped forward. "You asked why our ships have no visible weapons. Now you understand. We learned something from our own history on Earth. For thousands of years we built bigger and more obvious weapons, massive walls around our cities, giant warships with enormous guns, nuclear missiles in obvious locations. Each time our enemies developed specific countermeasures for those visible threats." He gestured at the hologram. "But the most effective weapons in human history were the ones no one saw coming. Submarines that struck from beneath the ocean surface when everyone watched the sky. Computer viruses that spread invisibly through networks. Cyber attacks that shut down power grids without firing a single shot. We realized that in space warfare, this principle would be even more important. Why build a gun that can be armored against?" Kim continued. "When you can disable an enemy ship without them ever seeing the attack? Why announce your capabilities when you can keep your opponent guessing? Visible weapons invite visible defenses. Invisible weapons leave your enemy preparing for the wrong threat." Thane Kerr spoke, his tone carefully neutral. "You have answered how and why. Now answer the question everyone is thinking. If you can disable any ship's computer systems, what prevents you from conquering the entire coalition? Why should we not see you as an existential threat?" Ambassador Lee took over, her voice firm and honest. "Because conquest was never our goal. Commander, I will be completely transparent with you. QCDs are extremely difficult to manufacture. They require enormous amounts of power. Each human ship can maintain the interference field for only brief periods, before our own systems become unstable from the energy drain. We are not invulnerable. We are just very good at making you think we are." Park added technical details. "Our weapons are specifically tuned to coalition technology. We studied your computer architecture, your shielding frequencies, your power distribution systems for months before we arrived. Against an unknown species with completely different technology, we would have to start from scratch. It could take years to develop effective interference patterns. QCDs are not magic. They are sophisticated science applied with centuries of human experience in information technology. Moreover, Kim said, we used 6 corvettes in the demonstration. Against a full battle fleet, we could disable dozens of ships before our power reserves ran out. But hundreds? Thousands? We would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Our advantage lies in surprise and superior strategy, not raw power. The chamber was silent as the aliens absorbed this information. The humans were powerful, yes, but they had limitations. They were not gods. They were just a species that thought about problems differently. Krixtal stood slowly. His massive form seemed less threatening now, more contemplative. When he spoke, his voice carried an emotion that surprised everyone. It was respect. You magnificent, devious creatures, he said, and there was something almost like warmth in his tone. You came to our station in a ship that looked defenseless. You let us mock you and underestimate you. And all along you held a weapon we could not even perceive, let alone defend against. That is not just superior technology. That is superior strategy. He looked around at the other commanders. For 3,000 years, the Coalition has been the dominant power in this region. We have grown comfortable, predictable. We build the same types of ships our ancestors built, just larger and more powerful. We fight the same way we always have. And then these humans arrive and show us that everything we think we know about warfare is incomplete. Krixtal turned back to the humans. You did not come here to conquer us. You came to prove you deserved respect. You have succeeded. I vote to grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Coalition. A murmur ran through the chamber. Krixtal, who had been humanity's harshest critic, now spoke in their favor. It was a dramatic reversal. Thaneker stood as well. I agree. But not just because of their weapons. The Coalition needs what these humans possess. Not their technology, but their way of thinking. They look at problems from angles we never consider. They question assumptions we take for granted. That creative thinking is worth more than any weapon. One by one, the other commanders stood and voiced their support. Some were enthusiastic. Others were cautious but willing. Within an hour, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would become the 13th member of the Galactic Coalition, with full rights and a seat on the military council. Ambassador Lee bowed deeply. We accept this honor with gratitude and humility. We promise to be partners in peace and allies in war. We will share what we can and learn what you can teach us. Together we will be stronger than any of us could be alone. As the formal ceremony concluded, Thaneker approached Captain Kim privately. The Quiltharian commander extended one clawed hand in the human gesture of greeting he had learned. You changed everything today, Thaneker said quietly. Within hours of your demonstration, every Coalition species began emergency research programs. We are all trying to develop quantum shielding, hardened computer systems, backup analog controls. Ship designs that have not changed in centuries are suddenly obsolete. You forced a paradigm shift in galactic warfare without firing a shot in anger. Kim nodded. We knew this advantage would be temporary. Once you understand the principle, you will develop countermeasures. But that was always acceptable. We did not want permanent superiority. We just wanted to be taken seriously at the negotiating table. You succeeded, Thaneker said. Then he added, I hope you are ready for what comes next. Now that we know what is possible, the arms race has begun, and you humans are at the center of it. Kim looked out at the stars through the station's windows. Somewhere out there, humanity's future was being written. They had made their impression. Now they had to prove they could be worthy members of this galactic community. The hard part, he reflected, was just beginning. 6 weeks passed. Confluence 7 changed during that time. A new section was added to the station, dedicated to what everyone now called the Human Coalition Research Initiative. Young officers from all 12 Coalition species studied alongside human instructors, learning about quantum mechanics, information warfare, and strategic thinking. But the peace did not last long. News arrived of an attack on the Coalition's outer rim. A hostile species called the Vormesh had launched a surprise assault on a mining colony. The Vormesh were aggressive and territorial. For years they had probed Coalition defenses looking for weakness. Now they had struck. The Coalition fleet responded quickly. 30 warships moved to defend the colony, but the Vormesh had prepared well. Their ships were heavily shielded and their tactics were coordinated. The battle quickly became a bloody stalemate. Ships on both sides took damage. Crews died, and the colony below suffered under orbital bombardment. In the war room at Confluence 7, Krixtal watched the battle reports with growing frustration. His forces were holding, but barely. The Vormesh were not backing down. This could turn into a long, costly fight. Thane Kerr entered the room and stood beside him. The Quiltharian studied the tactical display in silence for a moment. Then he said quietly, "We need help." Krixtal's pride warred with reality. Finally, he nodded. "Contact the humans. Ask if they can assist." The request reached Captain Kim within minutes. He was in a briefing room with Ambassador Lee and Commander Park, reviewing integration plans for human technology with coalition systems. When the message came through, all three of them grew serious. "They are asking for our help," Lee said. "This is sooner than I expected." Kim pulled up the tactical data. He studied it carefully, his experienced eye picking out patterns and weaknesses. The Vormesh have good shields and discipline. They are fighting smart, but they are using standard coalition tactics because that is what they prepared to face. "Can we help?" Lee asked. Park ran calculations on her tablet. The Quiet Dawn alone could make a difference, but it would be risky. If something went wrong, we could lose our only deep space combat vessel. Kim made his decision. "We committed to being allies in war as well as peace. Contact the Silent Thunder and the Peaceful Storm. Tell them to prepare for deployment. We go in as a squadron." The 3 human ships represented humanity's entire deep space combat fleet. Deploying all of them was a calculated risk, but it would send a clear message about human commitment to the coalition. 4 hours later, the 3 ships emerged from quantum transit at the edge of the battle zone. The HSS Quiet Dawn under Captain Kim, the HSS Silent Thunder commanded by Captain Yong-Soo Han, and the HSS Peaceful Storm under Captain Mi Young-yoon. All 3 vessels shared the same smooth, white hull design. All 3 carried the invisible weapons that had shocked the coalition. The Vormesh initially ignored them. Intelligence reports had told the Vormesh about human ships, but the reports were incomplete and confusing. The Vormesh commanders saw 3 small unarmed vessels and dismissed them as irrelevant. They continued their assault on the coalition fleet. This was a fatal mistake. The 3 human ships moved into position with practiced coordination. They formed a triangle around the Vormesh formation, each vessel precisely placed. On the Quiet Dawn, Commander Park coordinated with her counterparts on the other ships. "Thunder and Storm, this is Dawn. Confirm firing solutions." Thunder confirms. "Ready to engage," Storm confirms. "Awaiting your order." Captain Kim watched the tactical display. The Vormesh fleet was completely focused on the coalition ships. They had no idea what was about to happen. Kim allowed himself a moment of sympathy for them. Then he gave the order. "All ships activate QCD fields on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The quantum interference patterns spread outward from the 3 human ships like invisible waves. They overlapped and reinforced each other, creating a field that covered the entire Vormesh formation. Unlike the demonstration at Confluence 7, this was not a gentle test. The human crews pushed their systems to full power. Vormesh warships went dark, not one at a time, but in clusters. Command ships and escorts, cruisers and fighters all fell silent within seconds of each other. Emergency lights came on aboard the disabled vessels. Backup systems tried to activate and failed. The Vormesh fleet became a collection of drifting hulks, helpless and confused. The coalition commanders watched in amazement. They had seen recordings of the demonstration, but witnessing this in actual combat was different. The human ships cycled their QCD fields, preventing the Vormesh systems from recovering. Without power, weapons, or maneuvering ability, the attacking fleet was finished. The entire engagement lasted 17 minutes. Captain Kim opened a channel to the Coalition Fleet Commander. "Coalition Command, this is Captain Kim. The hostile fleet has been neutralized. Request you begin rescue operations for their crews. We will maintain disruption fields on their weapons and propulsion systems, but restore life support." There was a pause. Then the Coalition Commander responded, her voice filled with relief and wonder. "Understood, Captain. Thank you. You saved a lot of lives today." The human ships transmitted selective reactivation codes. Life support systems came back online throughout the Vormesh fleet. The crews would live, but their ships would remain disabled until Coalition forces could take them into custody. It was a precise, controlled victory with minimal casualties, exactly as the humans had planned. Later, aboard the Quiet Dawn, Commander Park reviewed the engagement data with Captain Kim. Around them, the bridge crew worked quietly, already preparing for the return journey to Confluence 7. "You realize what we have done," Park said softly. "We have changed galactic warfare forever. Every species in the Coalition saw this. Every species outside the Coalition will hear about it. Everyone will be trying to develop countermeasures now." Kim nodded. "Good. That means they will spend resources on defense instead of conquest. That means attack becomes more expensive and diplomacy becomes cheaper. That was always the point, Hyejin. We did not develop invisible weapons to dominate the galaxy. We developed them to make conquest so costly that everyone decides talking is better." Back at Confluence 7, the Council convened to formally thank the human fleet. But the tone was different now. The humans were no longer curious newcomers or potential threats. They were proven allies who had risked their entire combat fleet to help defend Coalition territory. Krixtal spoke for the Council. "The Galactic Coalition owes humanity a debt. You came to our aid without hesitation. You demonstrated power and restraint in equal measure. You defeated our enemies but showed them mercy. These are the qualities we value in our closest allies," Thaneker added. "More than that, you have taught us to think differently. Since your arrival, our military academies have been flooded with requests for courses on human strategic philosophy. Our engineers study your approach to problem solving. You bring more to the Coalition than weapons. You bring innovation." Ambassador Lee accepted the praise graciously. "We are honored to serve alongside you. We look forward to learning from your experience as you learn from our perspective. Together, we are stronger than any of us could be alone." Weeks turned into months. The station grew more active as human and Coalition personnel worked together. The research initiative expanded. New defensive technologies emerged, combining Coalition engineering with human quantum expertise. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began. Slowly, humanity integrated into the galactic community. 6 months after that first meeting, Captain Kim stood at an observation window watching ships come and go from the station. The HSS Quiet Dawn sat docked alongside Coalition vessels of every type. No one looked at it with suspicion anymore. The smooth white hull was recognized and respected throughout the region. Thaneker joined him at the window. The Quiltharian had become something like a friend over the months. They often met to discuss strategy and philosophy. "I still think about that first day," Thaneker said, "when your ship approached with no visible weapons. We thought you were naive. We thought you did not understand how the galaxy works." Kim smiled. "And now I understand that we were the naive ones. We thought bigger guns and thicker armor were the answers to every problem. You showed us that sometimes the most powerful weapon is the one no one sees coming. Sometimes the best defense is making your enemy question everything they think they know." Kim watched a Coalition training squadron perform maneuvers outside the station. Mixed in with the traditional warships was a new design, incorporating lessons learned from human ships. The galaxy was changing, adapting, evolving. "There is something else we learned from human history," Kim said. "The most effective weapon is not the one that wins battles. It is the one that prevents battles from happening in the first place. We built ships with invisible weapons so that we would never have to use them. Reputation can be more powerful than force." Thaneker considered this. "You have certainly earned a reputation." The Vormesh retreated to their home space and have not been heard from since. Other aggressive species are suddenly interested in diplomacy. All because 3 human ships demonstrated what invisible weapons could do. "That is the real victory," Kim said. "Not the battles we won, but the battles we will never have to fight. That is what invisible weapons were always meant to achieve. Peace through uncertainty. Security through unpredictability." Below them, a human transport docked, bringing new diplomats and scientists to the station. Above them, the stars shone with infinite possibility. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community, not through conquest or submission, but through innovation and strategic thinking. The Quiet Dawn remained docked at Confluence 7, its quantum coherence disruptors powered down and silent. The weapons that had shocked the Coalition now served as a deterrent, their reputation more useful than their actual deployment. Every species knew what the smooth white ships could do. That knowledge alone kept the peace. And that, Captain Kim reflected, had been the plan all along. Build a weapon so effective that you never need to use it. Create such uncertainty that potential enemies choose diplomacy over conflict. Win the war before it starts by making your opponents afraid to begin. The moment the alien commanders understood why human ships had no visible weapons was the moment everything changed. Not because the weapons were powerful, though they were, but because they represented a completely different way of thinking about conflict, security, and power. In the end, the invisible weapons achieved exactly what they were designed to do. They made humanity impossible to ignore, too risky to attack and too valuable to exclude. They earned respect without requiring conquest. They brought peace through the threat of war. And they did it all while remaining completely invisible, hidden in plain sight aboard smooth white ships that looked like they carried nothing dangerous at all.